The lesson.
Oh yeah.
DJ Bonez.
How's it going, brother?
Good, man. Good. It's been a few years since we've seen you come out the woodwork, so we appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a long, long time. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Now, interesting how this interview actually came about, because you actually reached out to us online and I didn't actually think it was you.
Yeah, actually, I've been watching some of the interviews you guys have been doing with a few people, and some questions sort of came out in some of those interviews and some assumptions, and there's been obviously a lot of talk about where the fuck am I and what I've been doing and that, and it just makes more sense to go, okay, I could just say it on a platform like this, so then everyone can stop asking questions.
I mean, look, for me personally, as a dude that was DJing for 10, 15 years, yourself, Stain and J-Red were probably my three biggest influences from Australia. And I can't remember the first time I came across your music, but I remember the first time I met you was Muffin Plutonic, I think around 2009, 2010, Adelaide Unibar. I think we discussed it with Stain. You know, I had a couple copies of a Mary J record and you jumped on and tore it to shit, and I pretty much threw them in the bin after that. But obviously you're doing your thing for quite a while before that. And so I wanted to start, I guess, where it all started for you. Now, you're originally from Sydney?
Correct.
And so the whole DJing thing for you started out in Sydney.
So I had a school buddy that I still keep in contact with to this day. And I used to go to his house before we go to school. And I used to basically, he had like a bit of a collection of wax. And his dad actually had a whole heap of stuff like James Brown, you know, Isley Brothers, all the old funk and that. And jazz records and all that. And I used to just be going, whoa, what's this? And he actually got me introduced to, I mean, I already knew what DJing was. Like I used to see it in the early days. I'm gonna back up a bit. Used to see things like, I think the first thing I ever saw that made me go, holy crap, was Derek B. Bad Young Brother. It's a video clip of him rapping, but he had like decks all lined up. It was like 8 decks. I was just like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? He must be doing something with those 8 fucking turntables, not just sitting there. But he wasn't, it was all bullshit. It was just all for show. You know, but I mean, I was actually quite intrigued. I already knew there was DJs and, you know, mixing records and all that, but it was the first time I saw it, you know, in a way that there wasn't someone just saying, I'm my own artist and I'm a DJ. And yeah, I can rap. So I got interested at wax, you know, in wax and records and mixing and all that. So we used to scratch before scratch up. He tore the shit out of his dad's records before school. His dad, God bless him, he wasn't a big fan of it. But and then that's all we do. Like we would just like cut up at his house. And just explored records and you know, looking at the back covers. So like, okay, who is he? Oh, he's on this cover. He's on this album as well. So I started to piece things together. And I used to, I guess, DJ at school and backyard parties. And my stuff used to get hammered. People used to spill their shit all over the turntables and, you know, my records. I'm like, yo, like, you know, the movie House Party 1 when Bilal, all his shit gets fucked up. It's exactly like that. Yeah. It was like that every summer. But I loved it. I liked playing for people and playing for, you know, crowds and stuff and just mixing and all that. And then obviously at the time, back in the early 90s, I mean, back in the day, I used to be a dancer, you know, I used to always, you know, New Jack Swing and all that sort of stuff, you know, And people go, you're whack, you can't, this, that. They used to want to play basketball, you're whack, you'll be good at that. And I was with DJ, you're whack. I was like, no, fuck that. This is one thing that I'm not whack at. So I just went, and then the funny thing was that people used to call me whack back at high school, the ones that used to come front and show and watch me play. That was really funny. But no, I guess it's something that really stuck. I wanted to stick with it because I just really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And it felt like something I can do blindfolded. A skateboarder with skateboards and stuff. It just worked for me. Yeah.
And then, so if that started around, high school, where did it become a thing where now you're actually out there buying records, or, like some people used to back in the day, gank records? When did it sort of slowly progress into something where you were like, oh, this is something that I want to take a bit further?
Yeah. At the time, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford records. So I didn't gank wax. I mean, nothing like that. I mean, I really wanted to. Damn. Wasn't a good thief. I was too paranoid. What I did was actually, I think was pretty smart, because the problem I had was, and I'm giving myself a bit of props, directly, which is weird. I didn't have many records. My mate did, and he didn't want to give them up. But the first record I bought was 7A3. That album. I can't even remember what it was called. Cool in Cali, that's it. Yeah, Cool in Cali. And then I looked at the papers, and there was a few people that were selling bulk records. You know what I mean? So these are ex-DJs that had, they're just getting rid of stuff. I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
And then I saved up a bit of cash, and then I went there and I just started digging through all this stuff and started seeing the funk stuff that I was liking. I started seeing all the hip hop stuff that I was liking, and some of the jazz stuff I was liking, and I just started grabbing shit from. Even sometimes I was grabbing records I didn't even know what the fuck that it was, because I just like the cover. I thought, all right, this is going to be fucking good. All right, there's something in here, and then it was basically really just a whole bag of tricks, and I'd just go back home. I'd have one turntable that was crap, and another turntable was a whole different brand. I went to Tandy and I bought a realistic mixer. And my mate had a Gemini, so we used to sort of flip them around and literally just practice a lot. I wouldn't sometimes go to school because my parents would go to work at the convenient time where before I had to go to school, and they'd come home conveniently after I would come back from school, because I didn't care for it. I didn't care for school that much. I saw something, I went, I know that if I apply myself to this, it's going to be good. It's only going to be up. So I would practice sometimes maybe anywhere from about 6 to 12 hours a day. That's, you know what I mean? It was, heavy. And after a while, I didn't need to. I started things started working out, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
At what point did was the next thing you entered a competition? You were doing the house parties and shit like that. What was sort of the next thing that came from that, and when did that happen?
I was seeing all the DMC competitions on video, VHS back then. And I started going, oh, holy crap. Okay, now this is, Cash Money, Aladdin, you know what I mean? All kinds of old school. There's so many of them, I'm not going to mention them, but it's just like, okay. So that opened up a whole nother perspective from mixing two records together, okay, cool, to really going beyond that point. That's when I really got heavy into it. So all these parties I would DJ, I started applying those types of techniques to my mixing capabilities. And then people started taking notice of it, and to the point where they would introduce me to other people who had linkages into other areas, and they say, you gotta check this guy out, blah blah blah. And to me, I gotta check this guy out. And then the first person, okay, so there was this DJ, and he's still around. His name's Cool Hand Luke. He was a DJ that used to play at this place called the Pavilion Tavern, and it was like it was bumping, like it was slamming right near Town Hall. And I'd go up and I'd watch him play, underage and all, but I just sneak in. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And I would go right there and watch him play, because the thing is, I never actually sat and saw people do it like really close up. Like, these are adults versus I'm a kid, you know what I mean? So when I got into clubs and I watched him play, I was just like going, damn, like, okay. And he was mixing it up, man. He was the one DJ who would he'd mix a commercial R&B track, and all of a sudden he'd flip it to Freedom Got an AK from the Lynch Mob, and the whole fucking place would just jump. I was like, fuck. This guy can flip it, you know what I mean? And that's where I got my, I started doing that shit. I started flipping records with your top 40 tracks, and then your raw hip hop tracks and all that. And I watch him cut. He wasn't much of a scratch DJ, but what I learned from him was programming and all that. And getting to know those types of guys introduced me to people like KC's, your AS's, GJJ, all those other guys. And then all I had to do was flip it, and then that's it. It became like, you're one of us. You got to hang out with us, and I wanted to hang out with them. So, and then we formed this sort of, we weren't a crew. We were just associates who just believed in, this art form and wanted to get better at it. With those DJs I was hanging out with, that they wanted to get close to me, and I wanted to get close to them, because we just shared that, mutual passion to improve ourselves for what we do. And then there was this one competition that came up, which is called the Studio Battle. And I entered that, and I think Danielson was in that battle as well. That's the first time I met Danielson from Coolism, and he was like, before my time a little bit. He already had a name for himself, and there was a few other people that were in that space as well. And all of a sudden, this lengthy guy comes in, malnourished, like, seriously, I was skinny as a skinny kid, and just took it out. And then that's when I think people started, the word got out, there's this new person, this new kid in town, no one knows him. And Sydney or Australia, they'd love an underdog, you know what I mean? And that's what it was, basically. It was just breath of fresh air, new kid, new tricks, bag of tricks, and wasn't involved in politics.
And then, so what was the result of entering that first comp?
The result, yes, I mean, blew it away. There was a couple of contenders in there that were pretty good. Like, I was like, yeah, but it was a local battle, you know what I mean? It was always like my taste in, not much in the competitive space. It was more like, hey, I'm here. Out of all those years of me practicing, how do I position now in this area, you know what I mean? And that gave me a lot of confidence to go, yeah, okay, this is it. So from now on, it's just full steam ahead. Yeah.
And from that point on, is that when you decided to take the jump and enter the DMCs? Or did you enter ITFs and that as well? Or?
No, I didn't really feel like it. I didn't have that kind of buzz or urgency at the time, because I didn't feel I needed to just yet. I wanted to when I was ready. But what happened is 95, 96, I think it was 96. 'Cause yeah, no, so yeah, 95 was that studio battle. Sorry, 96 was the ITFs or DMCs. I can't remember which one it was. So I entered this, and then I won the New South Wales, and when I went to Melbourne to compete for New South Wales. Shit. Oh my God, I can't believe it to this day. So I went to sound check, and you gotta basically do your set, making sure everything's right, everything's weighted right, the decks are fine, it's gonna work for you. Did my routine, and then the other DJs that were there from all over the country kind of just went, holy fuck, we got a problem here. Already I knew it was gonna be an easy win. I was just like, okay, cool. I starting to feel really, really confident. And then went back to the hotel with the person I was seeing at the time, had some dinner, had a shower, came back, left my needles in the hotel room.
That, yeah.
I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? It's too far from Swanson Street where I'm at. So I look around to someone I can trust. And I looked at the Adelaide boys. I was like, next, I need your fucking needles. You won't believe this shit. And he was just like, oh, fuck, man. Yeah, of course you can borrow them. And I thought, there's no way he's going to lend them to me because if I fuck him up, then he's fucked up. And I used them, and he had order phones. He had order phones, and I was a shore person, which means I needed weights, heavy. They were very heavy set needles, and they skipped all over the place. And it was just it was really terrible because I spent so much time for this routine, and it was just gone to the bin. And I just, after that, I said no to competing. Yeah.
And that was the first and the last time you jumped in a DMC?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I just, for some reason, I was just really, really upset by it. And yeah, when I look back, I kind of think I should have went, fuck it, and did it again just to prove my point. But I didn't really have that type of, I think I was the kind of person, I guess I thought about it and I went, I don't need to compete. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know what I'm good at. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I took a different route from that point on. I wanted to be, here's what I grew, and going back to your first point about how I got started into this, I grew up watching Terminator X. You know what I'm saying? Valley of the Jeep Beats. These guys had albums. These guys had their own presence. They weren't competitive DJs. I wanted to pursue a place where I wanted to make my own mark. I was my own product market fit. You know what I mean? And I wanted to base it around an identity as an artist versus a competitor. And I thought there was more value in me doing that versus competing all the time, because I really didn't have anything I wanted to prove, if you really, if you look at it that way. So,
yeah.
But it took me a while to figure that out. So that's where I started taking a different route going. I wanted to learn more about production, and build my own market in Australia, obviously, which was really hard at the time because we didn't have the numbers. Yeah, people go Australian hip hop back then wasn't huge, or it wasn't. A lot of people didn't dig it. We just didn't have the numbers, man. It was a niche market, but it was like, well, there's a lot of people that really, really, loved it. But just again, we're not living in New York. Unfortunately for us, we just population.
And then so that would then explain, because if that DMC was 96, then your first release, I think Hands on Deck, 98?
Yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, I forgot all about that one. It's all coming back.
Yeah, because that was your first, and then so obviously that's where your journey as the type of DJ that you want to become has really
No, that
begun,
wasn't my
because that's when
first.
you're
That wasn't my first. We actually did a break. We did crossfader Raiders, Raiders of the Lost Crate, which was a breaks record. It was for DJs.
Yes.
Yep, and before that we did a mixtape, which was, I don't even remember what it's bloody called. That's how old school it was. But it got through to a lot of, it went all the way to New Zealand and a few other countries that actually got to, people started taping it and dubbing it, and then it got through a lot of places. So a lot of hip hop mixes with cuts and bedroom style, New York style flavor, mixtapes. And then I did Hands on Decks, which was more aggressive. It was more of a scratch type of album. There wasn't nothing original about it. I didn't make any music with it. It was a 4-track, mixtape on cocaine. That's the best way to describe it. And influenced by, Scratch Pickles and all those types of, and with maybe with a bit of splice of, there was a bit of splash of Funkmaster Flex, New York style mixtape sort of stuff, beat juggling and all that, and I was just testing the market, really seeing what people were into, and actually did quite well. That got me distribution with a company called TRC in California. So I think it was the first distributed sort of release that got outside the country on a major distributing label that was hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah,
at the
wow.
time. So sold in Japan, worldwide. And then I got bootlegged like hell. And to me, it was like a compliment. I was like, hey, I can be bootlegged. Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, wow. And so then the release after that was the Bones Breaks release?
Yeah, so again, like these are break records purely for DJs, because I was one of them, I wanted to cater some more sort of customizable records in order to do tricks. So yeah, so it was Bone Breaks 1, and then I did after that the Australasian Dragon edition, which was Bone Breaks 1 on cocaine. It was a little bit more crazier in order to manipulate music and stuff. So yeah, that was I think it was about 120 individual kicks, snares, hats, and all synchronized in different sort of rhythmic beats, rhythms and stuff. But yeah, I did that, and that was kind of cool. It took me a while to fucking do that.
The next release after that, this is the one that like I really remember you for in terms of releases, is Roll Call in 07. And I actually revisited this album over the last 2-3 weeks, and fuck man, it sounds better now than when I first heard it, dude.
Cool, man, thanks.
Now, one of the things that I noticed is this was your first release and perhaps your only release on Obese.
No. So what happened was, it was so I did a lot of I did some more releases before that. So first the Dominion crew. So if you remember the Dominion crew, it was Mass MC, it was Torcha, it was Hyjak, it was Krypton. He lived in Bondi with Jack, so he was one of Jack's boys. And there was also Espa, ESP. He got me more into production, by the way, back in around the mid-90s. He's the person, he had his own studio, MPC 60. He had a keyboard, couple of keyboards, he had a couple of rack mounts. He was the guy that I really teamed up with on the production level, whereas I had all the other DJs I hang out with on the sort of DJ level. So I had these two alternate universes that I was kind of going like this with. It was really, really interesting. So on the production tip, I hang out with Espa, and we would make beats, every night almost. And he introduced me to other MCs. Me being in the DJ circuit, I used to see people rhyme at clubs. I went, aha, Jack, you're coming with us. This guy, you're coming with us. And these guys were fierce, man. These guys could hold a microphone and they could really, really flex. We saw something in them that we just went, you lay any beat with these guys, they will just annihilate it. And they did. So I did a lot of tracks with the Dominion crew, and it was more like some tracks on Mastermind Alliance, which is Master's album, The Degenerates, which was Hyjak and Krypton. I released an EP, which was Breaking Sound Barriers with Hyjak. This is where me and Hyjak started breaking away, not because it was beef or anything like that. We just had more time for each other. You know what I mean? Because Steve, ESP, was like, he was doing other things anyway. So I went, okay, I want to grab this little kid, because I saw him at that MC battle, that Pumpkinhead came to Sydney and he judged it. And I saw this kid, I was like, damn, 15, and just creamed them. Like this. I was just easy. I was just like, and I saw that battle mentality that I still had in me as well. You know what I mean? Because we're like battle DJs, but I wanted to battle on wax. You know what I mean? Like on records. That's the thing, So I said to him straight away, I said, "You're fucking coming with me." And then we just started doing shows together. We started doing shows with Mass. And one thing that started happening is I was looking at how all the groups in Australia were doing the sets. And I noticed something, that what they would do is they would actually do the track from start to end, pretty much. And I thought to myself, well, why aren't people flipping it? Like, why aren't they going, I want to take a piece of this verse, do a breakdown on this bit, have some cuts in the middle, flip it to another track, and mega mix our set together. So I started doing things like that with them. And then when we started playing out, we started doing shows, the hoods would call us straight away. Back, when they were starting out, even before their right foot. And we do a lot of shows with those boys. And we were really, really tight with them. People in Melbourne would bring us, like, Shaz back then. And we'd go and play there. So we weren't doing this way before Culture of Kings. But we had a way of flipping things around a lot, and people really dug it. So that's what started happening before roll call. Like, that's why I want to take you back a little bit. And then what happened after that? Jesus, it's been so long. So there came a time where, Mastermind Alliance was more ESP's album with Mass, but I helped the production and the cuts. And they had the Ethnic Tribe, Torcha and Khalil, which was more Steve's group as well, ESP. And I'll do a bit of cutting here and there. But then Jack, for me, was my testing ground. So it's just like, okay, well, let's make this EP. And then from then it went on to going, okay, well, I saw how Torcha would flip it. He was insane. And I went, you two together are unstoppable. There's just absolutely no way, if we combine you two, the sky's the limit. And then Drastic Measures came out, and I produced a whole album. So, well, minus maybe 2 tracks, because Suffer also did a beat, and another group that Jack, one of Jack's mates, Ends of Means. I think they did a beat on that as well. But that was my first real. So let's just say DJ Honda, right? But I was just yeah. But it wasn't focused too much on me. It was more like them. But then they sort of brought me into it. So it's Hyjak and Torcha. I was on the cover, so whatever. I was part of the group, little group. You know, we couldn't actually think of a group name. So I was living at the Cross at the time. I was just like, can we just say Hyjak and Torcha and just be done with it? And that's how it was, because they couldn't fucking figure out a name. But that was it. That was the first, and that was my sort of MVP, you know, my minimum viable product, to see, you know, what people, if they would like it or not. And that was a bit of a controversial album too, because either people really, really liked it or really, really hated it. There was not much in between, because I used a lot of keyboards and synths, and I played my own tunes out of it, and didn't sample a lot, which was, you know, wasn't that sort of boom bap-y kind of hip hop. And it's funny when you listen to hip hop nowadays, it's all over the place.
And I mean, look, I want to just quickly touch on that. Like, from my memory, being in SA, when, you know, the hoods, the funkors, the early 2000s sort of period where it was really popping off here in SA. Yeah, I remember like people here were really riding with what was coming out of Melbourne and what was coming out of Adelaide and Perth. But yeah, I remember Sydney was kind of the one that people here was not fucking with so much, with maybe the exception of like a Death Wish cast.
Let me explain the mentality of why Sydney sounded the way Sydney sounded. And I swear, this is the breakdown, okay? Sydney was a party town, okay? We were, at heart, we were club DJs. Do you know what I mean? We were in clubs slamming, you know, New Jack Swing, you know, we'd play R&B. We'd fucking play hardcore hip hop as well. We play everything to get the crowd going. So we had a very crystallized kind of sound anyway, because that's the stuff we would listen to. You know what I mean? So it's only right that we would try that type of, you know, style out. So we wanted to not be more, because Melbourne and Adelaide were already doing that. So why are we going to follow that same path? Yeah. Why don't we try something different? And a lot of people did, but yeah, it was, that's the reason why I think if I think about it, there's no reason why we wanted to sound like Melbourne and Adelaide in the first place, even though, you know, some of the stuff that I did dig and some of the stuff I didn't dig either. I was just like, yeah, it's all right. It's trying to be something like that. And much to what people might think about the Sydney style as well. There was a massive rivalry between Melbourne and Sydney, and there always was. Because it wasn't even music, it was just general Melbourne versus Sydney. It's just that it was tribal, you know what I mean? That type of, you know, back and forth with them. But yeah, so that was the first release on Obese that we did. So going back to roll call, that wasn't the first. Yeah. And then after that, so basically what happened was I wasn't making any good money back then. I wasn't making any money. It was hard. There was, like, let's put it this way. I never had a club that I would have a regular spot working at. And a lot of DJs who I knew had their sort of regular clubs. So you had your Luke's and, you know, your DJ J's had Bondi and the Good Bar, and if you had the Grand Pacific Blue Room, all these other clubs, and then you got Motto and his boys, and they had their sort of R&B super clubs and all that kind of stuff. Why would they let someone like me? And it doesn't make any sense, because then if I come over, then it'll be a different story, right? I'm not knocking them. It's not about that. It's about, well, I would probably do the same thing if I had my own thing. And I never really was a person that would willfully go out and try to take someone's club, even though I could have. But I wasn't really getting enough shows in order to justify me to keep doing this. There's only one place that would be able to do that, and that was Melbourne. Melbourne had something different than Sydney didn't have. Melbourne had a much richer nightlife culture, that you had more opportunities to go in Melbourne, and the vibe in Melbourne was a lot different to Sydney. And at the time that's when the Sydney lockout came in, and that ruined everything. I'm like, well, if I'm not going to make any money back then, now the lockouts, I'm definitely not going to make any money here. Like, I've got to get out of here. So I moved to Melbourne, and plus I got a bit sick of Sydney as well. I'm like, I've been here all my life. I'm going to try something different. I'm back in Sydney now. But Obese was where the label was at. I was very, very close with Pegz, because they used to bring us all the time to play there. And it just felt right. So I went at the time to Melbourne with my my wife now, who I'm married with, and we went there just to get out of Sydney for a couple of weeks because we needed a break. And I was like about a week before we had to come back, and I said, "Can we just stay here? Oh fuck, let's just not go back." She's like, "Yeah, fuck it," and that's it. That's exactly how it happened. And then I called up my folks, and everyone's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not coming back." Like, what do you mean you're not coming back? I was like, "Yeah, I'm just. I'll send for my stuff in a couple of weeks or months, and I'll come and get everything and move it back to move it to Melbourne." And then we rented a place, and then I called the label and said, "Yeah, no, I'm staying." And they were really thrilled at the time as well, because it's like, oh shit, yeah, we got some more talent here, and it gave me the opportunity to also play for other groups as well. So, Muffin Pluto, Pegz, played for all kinds of fucking people, and I was just trying to basically make my own way, you know what I mean, and start again, really.
Yeah.
Which was rough, but sometimes you gotta have to do it.
When you've moved to Melbourne, not long after that, that's when you've recorded and dropped Roll Call.
Yeah.
I guess, what was your inspiration, your motive behind recording that particular release, and how did you find the process?
Lots of different emotions came when I thought about doing that. Well, first of all, like, I wanted, as I said before, that I wanted to start to be known as someone that can stand on my own 2 feet and do my own thing. You know what I mean? I knew all the MCs from the circuit. So for your Perth boys to your Adelaide boys, Melbourne, Sydney, I just knew, so I just wanted to collaborate more with people, because there's so much good talent out there. And yeah, it was just, again, trial and error, trying new things. And yeah, it was just basically just keep it going. And it's hard, man. It's hard when you don't have a group. Jack and Torch were here, but they were already doing other things anyway. So they all had wandering eyes. They went to other places, and more power to them. But I'm like, well, where am I at now? So what am I going to do? So again, I had to go down that pathway to explore new avenues. So, and it was cool. I called up the Oars. They were like, yeah, straight away. I called a couple other lads, and I tried a couple of different things as well. We were like number one, as well, that track. But you'll see some of the clips. Like, I got Sam people as well, who are from Portland, and I never met the guys. I just sent a beat over. They sent me back the lyrics. I was like, wow. And then I said, oh, can we make a video out of this? This is fucking dope. And I think I paid a couple $100, and some 19-year-old kid did it. It looked dope. I was like, go, why can't things be that freaking simple here? It was just like that. One of the best tracks I've ever bloody made. And it didn't take long either. But again, with the oars, focus on the art of DJing. It's on there. You see it, you know, throughout the whole clip. I just felt that there wasn't a lot of presence in terms of the DJ here in Australia when it comes to making records. No one was scratching on records anymore, which I found quite odd. And now I forget it. It's just completely absent. It just doesn't exist. And I guess I was also fighting for that. I wanted to, you know, make sure that that presence is there. You know what I mean? And there was at one point I was sitting down and I was thinking, oh, you know, some of the beats I was sending to people were kind of going, oh yeah, we like it, but you know, can you do it more like this and you can do it more like that? I started getting actually pretty annoyed by it. I was just like, okay, and it happens all the time with, you know, when you're collaborating with people. So I said, fuck it, I'll make my own rap. And then I made number one. And that's where that came about. It's just like, I don't need MCs to rap on my beats anymore. I can just do it myself. And yeah.
Well, let's get stuck into that one a little bit, because that's the, you know, I guess the pure DJ joint on the album that's all made up of samples. My favorite songs on that release are the ones with Muff, the Funkors one, the Pegz one, and your solo. And obviously being a DJ, my ears are instantly drawn to that. It's fucking clean, and it sound, as a DJ who digs for samples, etc., it just sounds like that would have taken so long to dig and lay down and go back and polish up. I mean, was that the hardest song to put together out of the whole lot?
Hardest song I've ever had to do in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a love song, actually. I mean, that's what it really is. It's and there's kind of like a metaphor for my love for hip hop as well. You know, it's about the woman that I met, the woman of my life, you know, it was very special to me. And I can't sing her or do a rap. I suck at that shit. She'll fucking look at me and go, what the fuck have I done here if I did that shit? But I can make beats and I can cut. So I thought to myself, so the process for that was, if you the way you phrase that comment, that question, sorry, about it must have taken a long time to find samples. See, I didn't look at it that way. I didn't go, okay, well, I need, the first lyrics is ayo and then baby. I'm like, okay, so who says ayo? No, I didn't do it like that. It was, so what I did was I spent about a month or maybe a month and a half of going through every single acapella that I had, and I recorded all my acapellas. That was step one, okay? And then what I did was I broke down the words word for word based on those acapellas. I mean, sometimes I'll grab a small sentence if I thought, you know, I'm the king of rock, you know, whatever, right? And then what happened was I had these short sentences, and what I did was, first I would basically, they're all cut up, ready to go. I would cut them and paste them in first, right? But I'd write some things first, and then all I had to do was go to my Mac in my Finder and go, I need a word that says there, bang, there it is. Aha, I can find it straight away. And that's all it took. So at first, for the first, I guess maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I started finding gaps. I didn't have as much as I thought. Or if I did, it just didn't sound right at the time, and it was too, like, loud, it was too soft, you know what I mean? I need something different. So I kept on finding new things and getting, and I was running out of acapellas. I was calling my boys like, any more acapellas, man? I just started, I need more. He goes, what the fuck you doing? I'm like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. It's coming. And I started chopping more up, and then basically it all sort of came, you know, and then once I sort of whacked it up there, I created a separate track. Then I put that into Serato, and then I'd flip it from Serato and then do it that way. So I had a bit of cutting and all that kind of stuff, because it was, yeah. So that was the technique. Was one is find resources, to start to think about ways I can express the message I wanted to get across for the song, and then it was just like, holy shit, is this something new? Like, is this something I have to do all the time now? Because I don't think I'd probably lose more hair. Like, it's gonna take a long time to come up with records like this, and when you look at Bone Breaks, that's how I cut up all the drum sounds, right? So I thought, well, why can't I do that with lyrics? You know what I mean? So, and it was also a bit of a finger to some of the people that MCs that were just really up themselves at the time. I thought, fuck you, I don't need you. I can make my own fucking rap. But look, you know, I mean, it's just the way I am. It's just no bad blood. Just wanted to try new stuff. That's all.
Now, in working, you know, with a bunch of artists on a record like that, and I mean, look, as someone who has worked with MCs a bit, whether it's on recordings or even putting on concerts and events, I always sometimes found it tricky.
It is very tricky to collaborate with people, definitely. I mean, some people you click with, and it's gravy. It's beautiful, right? But there was times in my career where, and I'm not going to mention names, but my God, they go, man, we got to do a track together, or you know, you got to do some cuts, or I want to just, you know, get your beats and cuts, whatever, and then you get there, and they dictate the way they want you to do it. Like when it comes, let's keep it simple now, just the scratches, right? I be at some of the worst cuts I have ever done, and there's a couple of them, are people micromanaging me from behind, saying, no, don't do that. And I'd flip out at them. I'd be like, nah, man, come on. You just shut up for 5 seconds. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of something. It's like the process. You've got to do something to work out where it's at, you know what I mean? And what to do. Or something naturally comes and you go wild, and they go, it's too wild, or it's too this. I'm like, why'd you hire me for in the first place if you know the type of cuts that I do? You know who I am. If you look at my record, I mean, look at the stuff I've done in the past. Why are we here? You know, so if you want to do it the way you want to do it, just do it yourself. I used to come across that all the time. And I just got sick and tired of it. And we had a lot of, you know, we had a couple of fallouts because of that stuff, you know. And there came a time where we, I'll give you a quick example, right? Oh God, what a nightmare. So, Jesus Christ, fuck it, I'll say, I don't care anymore. When I dropped Roll Call, that came out, was really well received, yada, 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 had a massive, but people would dictate how that should also work out. Take this out, take that out, whatever. And then had a fallout with the label, a big one, really big one. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. And then I dropped the Ninja Art a couple of months later. And then the track called The Hot, which is with Omni, and that went gangbusters. It was played everywhere. And then Obese calls me up and goes, that was dope. Why can't you do shit like that? I'm like, maybe if you shut up. Or even guys in Adelaide, I'm not going to mention names, but some guys in Adelaide that we used to fuck with go, why didn't you send us beats like that? I was like, you should have heard it before when I sent it. Didn't sound nothing like that shit. You know what I mean? Because I'm a DJ, so when I get the acapellas, I can go, you know what, actually doesn't sound like great on that. I want to flip it and do something different. and that's when you'll get the best out of me, is if you just have a bit of faith. Let me go loose a little bit. Don't get so paranoid. Don't talk to me behind my back and go, no, the way you had it before was kind of cool. Just then you'll get the best cuts. So the best cuts I've ever done are when people just let me do my thing. Death Wish Cast, let me do my thing. Aussie Battler, let me do my thing. Trem, let me do my thing. You know what I'm saying? The Oars, let me do my thing. You know what I mean? And then some of the best tracks I've ever come up with, where I felt constrained to do certain things. They wanted sort of old school boom bappy kind of cuts. I'm like, I'm not that kind of DJ though. It's just the way it is. I just don't do those style of cuts. It's just the way I am. So if you don't like it, get someone else. And if you feel constrained, you're basically lacing something you don't believe in. And it's dynamic. You're going, I don't like this, and cut. All right, cool, good. Let's get the fuck out of here. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do my own thing, because no one can tell me what to do. You know what I mean? It's just purely, it's all up to me. So it's hard. It's hard collaborating with people. It really is. But you've got to have limits, and you got to know. It's all about making trade-offs. Because at the end of the day, you're working with different people. You need to be able to, make sure that they're happy with what you're doing, and vice versa. So, but I think the magic of creativity comes out when you're willing to take risks with songs, even if they might not work out. It's a risk, and I think you need to go to places where, even though they won't work at the time, something will stem out of that and branch into something different. And that's what I always wanted to do. I wanted to find people that were willing to take, risks and try to go to new places. But it's hard when let's be honest. If I was to do a track with LC, no fucking way. It will not work. LC are stuck in their ways, and they're legends in the game, right? I'm not paying them out, but when I'm trying to make a point, my point is, sometimes things are not meant to be, all right? And sometimes those collaborations are not meant to be either. But they see something, and maybe I might be guilty about that as well, but I'll see something, go, damn, but if we can maybe make it work. And then you try to make it work and you can't, because you guys are just too different, you know what I mean? So it's very rare to find people that you can just connect with on that creative level. It's very, very unique and very hard. So I'm lucky enough to find people in my life that, we made some noise. If not on wax, we made noise performing. I think the sets that we've done were way better than the tracks we laced. I think we were really good at performing our songs than actually making songs. That sounds weird.
And then
sounds weird.
Ninja Art dropped like not long after Roll Call, and then that was the last release from you?
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Yeah. Last release as an album release. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I did a lot of other things for groups in terms of like remixes or scratches. So I would still, pretty
active. So you were still DJing like live gigs, clubs, etc.
I would go on tour with groups, yes, as the official DJ or supporting DJ, where it's just like a couple of tracks. So that was my bread and butter. We do big tours, we do little gigs here and there. But Muffin Platonic called me up. The Oars called me up, and they wanted, when Fluxy couldn't do things, they go, they'd bring me in, and it was great, man. Like I love performing for people, and give a different spin on things. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I mean, there might be times where there was some resistance because they're like, well, if you're going to bring in this guy, then what does that mean for me? Is this the start of something that's ending?
Yeah.
It's not like that for me. I just loved playing with people, and I have the experience of being behind MCs in different atmospheres, in different fan bases, different set of challenges. You know what I mean? And you've got to mold yourself to make sure that you fit what they do. Um, and I would do things like I did it with a funk horse track for roll call, and then I started doing it more for other groups where people didn't believe that I would do cuts on the record live. There were times where people thought I was mimicking it, and I wasn't. I was actually rehearsed to do it the way I did it on wax or on a video clip. So what I would do, because I find sometimes it's just too boring for me to sit there and go, just wait for
Yeah.
my, and
Yeah.
then do a cut. So what I would do was I go, well, how can I make this work? I've got the technology. Serato's just there. Now I can manipulate anything I want. So what I would do is if I was to scratch a certain way, I would then go, well, if I had two records with a 12 o'clock, label, first of all, I have to have the sample here, but when this gets to that point, what needs to be there so I can be ready for it? So I'd mathematically put things in places where they need to be in my stems on the left channel, and the right channel would be completely different, because when I leave this, I want to be able to cross my hand to this part because it's like that on the video clip. I go, I can't leave it on that one. I have to take it out and put it on this one, on that stem. So now I have to practice, and then I would fuck it up a lot at home. I go, it's not working out. And then I'd make those mistakes, and then I'd go back to the program. I'll correct them and place them where they need to be shifted a little bit, just so it's there, ready to go. And then when I do it, they go, there's no way you did it. I'm like, yeah, that's how I did it. So as long as it's in the right place, I can manipulate it and cut it the way I need to, because it's the hard part was you need to either wind it back a bit in order to get to that lyric or that sound. But then if you did it a certain way in the video clip, you have to cross your hands over and do that and this and that and this and that and this and that. It's just like, how's that going to work? So that was what I wanted to do. And that's how I accomplished it, to make it look like it was like the way it sounded on the record or the way it looked like on the video clip, which was really, really painful, but it worked. But a lot of people still think that it was all bullshit. It was all, and then I think at the Oars in Adelaide, I did it on purpose so they can understand I wasn't miming. I think I took the beat off completely, and that way they can actually hear the drag a lot easier, a lot clearer, because there's no beat, and that's when then people can understand it. And he's doing it for real. So yeah, it was funny.
After the last official album release from you, you've still been doing, the tours and the live performances. When did that sort of start to wind up for you? And do you remember the moment where you said, that's it, I'm done with the music?
Yeah, I do. It's a little hazy, but I remember the point where, you reach a certain age and you're like, oh my God, am I going to be that 40-year-old DJ? Honestly, trying to pick up chicks in the club, going, hey, did you catch my last set? Nah. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, it's, it's hard to make a living from this stuff. I mean, let's keep it real. It's really hard. It's you either got to be, A grade, or semi B grade star, you know. And you got to have your hands in a lot of different pies. You need, if you got to have records out, but you don't make not that much money on record sales anyway. And I mean, our royalties, I mean, let's be honest, we would get 30% of the record sales, and the label will keep 70. How's that right? Yeah, we weren't making money, man. How do you justify to progress? You know what I mean? We made more money off our merchandise in shows than our, um, you know, sometimes performances. Hey, that was interesting. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is you got to have your hands in a lot of different pies. So you do your music, you've got to have a publishing deal, do some music for like commercials or film, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. You got to do music for other people and get your royalties that way. I mean, I still get royalties all the time. It's great, but I just didn't see. It was just too much work, and I thought to myself at one point, what's after this? Like I need to, I want to start a family. I don't want to be that dad that is struggling all the time. So I basically went to school, and then I got a diploma in like graphic design and media and 3D animation and development, technology and all that. And I did a degree in design and communications. And I started out as a creative sort of graphic design. He's sort of UX designer for the designs apps and websites and all that. And that led me to a path. Now I own my own company, so consultancy. So I am a strategic designer. What does that mean? That means that I come into an organization and they're looking at creating a whole new product in a whole different market, and they have this idea, and my job is to go, your market doesn't give a shit about that product. We did the research. They actually care more about this. And then and there's a million different ways we do that. And then we also can make them a product to go, here's a prototype of the product that people can use, and then we can build it for you. So there's a lot of sort of strategic design, a lot of, workshop facilitation, which is like our show. There's making things, products, which is like making music, right? You get what I'm saying? So it's another creative way. I have to be creative, otherwise I'm dead. So like, what is out there that I can still make something that won't drive me nuts, and I can get my creative, brain ticking. But it's a whole different ball game. Like I work with a client now, and it's corporate. It's mad corporate. You know what I mean? It's a whole different audience. I can't turn around to the audience and go, fuck you, bitch. I'll lose my job. It's a different mentality, but it's different. It's weird. I was depressed for a while, letting it go. It took me about 5 years to get over it. Yeah.
And that was actually my next question is, you seem quite happy with where you're at now. But yeah, like when you made that decision to let go, I can imagine, did you have things going through your head like, fuck, I've wasted X amount of years and all that sort of shit?
Yeah, I did, because you're at that sort of tipping point where it could, if you I mean, at the end of the day, everything needs to come to an end. Even if you're at the top, there's going to be a part where you're going to fall. You know what I mean? You can't be number one forever. You know what I mean? So it's the same with the DJ stuff. You know what I mean? So, battle DJs, they're not going to win every single competition. You're not going to be number one on the charts all the time. So let's take it up and take it down a couple of levels, right? So to me, it was more about this is a transition for me. This was a stepping stone to experience something in music that got me to where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? It made me, it built me up as a character, and I was quite a character to be who I am now. And I still miss it. I miss it all the time. I wouldn't say every day, but I miss it a lot. um, and you know, we made a lot of noise, like a lot of noise back then, and I can pretty much say if I was to die tomorrow, would I be okay with it? Shit, yeah. Because I felt I've lived 3 lifetimes, like I really do. It's an amazing gift that I was fortunate enough to have, and the gift of knowing a lot of other people to interact with and do some magic. You know what I mean? So that it takes time. It's like first is anger. Stage 1 is anger. Stage 2 is acceptance. You know, and that's a hard one too. You got to just accept and let go. And I still have my equipment. Still got my SL 1200s. Still got my wax. Sold my drum machines, but I just bought a new machine, the Mark III, not the standalone one, because I'm just to escape from what I do day to day. You know what I mean? Just to get on it and my as soon as people found out I'm back in Sydney, I started getting all those calls going, oh man, come on, let's go. You got the buzz, I can tell. I'm like, just because I'm on the phone with you doesn't mean I've got the buzz. But to be quite honest, I actually do have the buzz. I actually want to come. Sometimes you've got to go away to come back. You know, I'm not saying I want to come back, but I'm just saying like it's good to have a break. And I think I needed a break because it's almost like a drug. You know, at first, it's all pleasure. It's all amazing. And then what happens is you get into it and it starts to get more pain. You know what I mean? I think the biggest mistake I've ever made in my career as an artist was mixing my the pleasure of being into that space of music and getting more closer with people, knowing everybody, and not treating it as a separate as business as you know, this is my job. Because what happens when you start interacting with fans and people and promoters, which is a whole other thing, by the way, the promoter thing, you get involved in the politics. You know what I mean? And it's a dog eat dog world out there. Everybody wants to do better than each other, and people, you know, are fighting for that top tier position. And it's very, very aggressive, and it takes a lot out of you. And only the best of the best succeed, to the ones that really put in the work. So I actually, you know, we have a mutual respect with people, and they know who they are. When I'm saying this is that, you know, there are some heavy hitters out there, but these are the guys that do the heavy work, you know? And that's the result. Then you get the flip side of that, where the people are just not putting in the work, and they complain why they're not getting anywhere. It's like, come on, man, are you serious? It's a really hard skill to have, and you know, so skill is one, but then there's the strategic element of getting to where you are. You need to have fans. You need to have a business mindset. You need strategy. Listen, Nessa is a good example of that. Hoods are a good example of that. You know what I mean? Elephant Tracks and Obese, you know, it's a good example of that. So, yeah.
Earlier in the interview, we were talking about how Melbourne and Sydney have always had a rivalry beyond music, just cities in general, because they're the two big cities in Australia. And when I've spoken to DJs, the Melbourne-Sydney thing really transcended into the DJ world. And you mentioned that it also was a part of the hip-hop world. Now, in terms of the DJ world, when you were in the DMCs, with J Red and Samrai and that whole bucket of people entering at that point, or not so much? Because to my understanding, although it was Melbourne and Sydney, Samrai and Jay were kind of flying the flags for each city.
Yeah. I didn't get too involved in that. Thank God. For good reasons. I was an observer of that. Where Samrai and the J-Red thing, let's put it this way. I know them both. Yeah. Now, J-Red's a different type of DJ than Samrai. J-Red to me is someone that knows his hip hop, man. Like he knows the game, you know. So he's a scholar when it comes to that sort of stuff, and pretty much like me as well. Like, you know, we know our roots and all that. He similar to me, I guess. Battle is not. It's just his thing. He has his hands in other pies. He's also a producer. He also DJs for groups. He knows how to cut on wax. So he's on records where Samrai isn't. I'm just giving you the distinction between the two based on what I've observed. Okay, it's my personal opinion. Where Samrai is a different type of DJ. He comes, much like Jerry, comes from the club scene, but he's a club DJ, pretty much, and he's also a battle DJ. That's the one thing that they have in common, but they branch out into other things. You know what I mean? So two different style of DJ. Of course, you're gonna have conflict, but also in attitude wise, Samrai, I guess, because he's a wog, is a little bit more like he's cheeky. He's very cheeky, and I like that cheekiness. I actually get it because I know where it comes from, and he's wants to be number one, you know, and he wants to do it and flex and be number one. Jared, you know, he takes a different type of approach. I have not seen him be that way, but maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I'm just saying what I've observed is two different attitudes, two different style of people, two different styles of hip hop and what they do. Of course, they're gonna clash, you know. And I'm just sitting there going, "You're both wrong." No, no. It was weird for me. I mean, I'm also, you know, had my own little tiff as well with Nino Brown a couple of years ago. That was interesting on Facebook, where I called him out on something as well, and that went gangbusters.
Can you mention what it was that you called him out on?
Yeah, he said it's probably not him. It was probably his publicist, to be honest. So maybe credit to him for that. Maybe I don't know, but he mentioned that he kept on representing himself as Australia's #1 DJ. And once you do that, then you're a target for people like me, a target for people like Samrai, a target for people like J-Red, man. You're a target for people like us because we'll sit there and go, well, #1 in what? Hip hop DJ? Or are you just saying in general? Are you basing it on sales? Are you basing it on tricks? Are you basing it on technique and skill? You know, what are you basing that on? It's too broad of a term to say you're #1. And the way I saw it, and maybe a couple of other DJs saw it, is like, we don't even say that we're #1 and we're damn good. So I called him out and saying basically, you know, nothing personal. It was business. It's like, if you're #1, then go head to head with me on stage. Let's go. Pick the records, pick the venue, and let's get our butts there and then see if you're really #1. And then that started a whole shitstorm of, you know, everyone started tapping in, going, yeah, nah, F him, you know, do it, it's gonna be awesome. And the other were like, no, who the hell is this guy? You know, never heard of me, and because they come from that world. And it was so good watching it all happen. I was there with popcorn going, nom, 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 nom. It was great. And then I got a call from Samrai, of course, because they were buddies, and he was just going, yeah, man, look, I no disrespect. I'm like, hey, what do you got to do with it? You got nothing to do with it. Like, I felt like he was speaking on his behalf. I was like, nothing personal, man. if I was to do something like that, I would definitely get called on it. Come on.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. So what I'm saying is, we have this is our livelihoods. We take this stuff seriously. So yeah, we will call you out on that bullshit if you go out there and do it. I saw him in Melbourne actually a couple of years after. That was fucking awkward. And he's like, he looked at me and I was just like, hey, my arch nemesis, what's up? Straight away. And he's like, oh man, how are you? Yeah, no, I'm good, man. Let's go for a coffee. So we sat down and coffee. And I shit you not. Have you seen the movie Heat? Like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino? Yes. It was like that. We're just staring at each other. It's fucking great. And I don't regret it. But that's the thing, like it's nothing personal. We can still sit down and have a coffee together. But it's expected. You've got to call people out on that. So what J-Red is doing, what Samrai and that whole thing, does it surprise you? No. Is it necessary? Yes. It's people that are passionate about two different things, the same thing, but they have different opinions about what is good and what is bad, and you're gonna get, what's sad is when it starts becoming, you've got to back me up because you're my mate or this or that, the other, and it happens with judging. Like a couple of years ago, my boy KC was says, come and judge. I was like, ugh, sure, okay. You get me out of the house and I'll have some free alcohol. That's fine. And I've seen how people judge, and there's a lot of bias in what they pick, number one. And the one night that I was judging, we went out. Even I think Mark N was there as well. A few other people, and Mark N's like my boy. We went head to head together. He was like DJ Noise versus your Mixmaster Mike kind of style DJ. It was that kind of rivalry, but it was good. It was healthy, right? And we would be at the back, and they'd be like, "No, okay, so guys, so this guy won, yep." And I'm like, "Nah, he didn't win. There's no way he won that. There's absolutely, he would have come third, really." And we're like, okay. So they're going through their minds and go, okay, well, let's tally up the scores. Maybe we can convince you that way. I'm like, no, fuck your scorecards. I don't need a fucking scorecard. You know who's number one. He clearly won. And why should we have to break it down? So there's this whole, I've seen a lot of that where it's like, he won because, that's my boy performing. So, it's just, it's bloody awful because, you think about it, these guys have spent, 4 to 6 months practicing on something. You don't want someone to represent our country. First of all, it's a form of respect. You've got to respect people who do good work and have to win. And by the way, this individual that they wanted to mark as number one has already won twice. It's like, it's time for him to lose now. Okay, he's had his turn. All right, now it's his turn, and rightfully so. And I'm like, why am I in the back alley of this place in Melbourne even convincing you of this? Like, what a waste of my time. Like, it's really, that's when it gets frustrating. You know what I mean? When you see that kind of talk, it's just like, when the obvious answer is like, dude, come on. I don't need a scorecard. He won.
You also mentioned that in '96, not only that you cross paths with DJ Next, but you actually borrowed his needles, which unfortunately didn't work out. But DJ Next, for those who may not know, was actually the original DJ for the Hilltop Hoods before Debris. Now, you also mentioned that, groups like the Hoods are where they're at because, they've put in the hard yards. When you met Next and you were competing in the DMCs, he was already the DJ of the Hoods. And how well did you know the Hoods at that point in time? And did you notice anything different about them that made you go, these guys are going to be the ones that take it to that next level?
Yeah, that's a good question. So next was the DJ. Debris was the producer at the time, I think, and Suffer was the MC, and Pressure was the MC. So they used to they used to bring us to Adelaide a lot to play with them. And that's where we got really, really close with them, because there was this, I guess, mutual respect for one another, that, you know, we're hard workers, they're hard workers. We put a lot of effort into our work. And we used to just kick it, you know what I mean? But also what was happening is we were learning a lot of each other. And what I mean by that is we would play, and rightfully so, they would play as well. But we'd be going, okay, so this is how they're flipping it. You know what I mean? And they look at us and go, oh, that's how they're flipping it. And then we started seeing a change in the way that we started performing. All right? You get me? Okay. Okay. So to me, that was, I didn't actually think of that till probably about 10 years later. It came to me, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So we really, they were our boys, man. Like we really got along like a house on fire. I started doing some more stuff with them here and there as well. Did some cuts for them on the records. And then to your question, we didn't think any of us are capable of blowing up like that. It was just not in our, you know what I mean? We weren't reaching for a status like that. And then there was this interesting time when I went up there, and you know we were doing some shows, and they had this internal joke, all right, where anytime there was like a really hot girl that would come past, they would go and that was the symbol, right? Hear me out here, and so every time I'd sing that, there's a hot chick around we got to look at. All right, fair enough. Now, and it didn't come to, I didn't think about it until probably about 5 years later. You know what I mean? Like they had this ongoing joke, which is the beat nuts. And then it was a flute, right? So it's the same thing with this track. So I was like, oh, that's what they fucking had that fucking vibe from. So they got it from that, and they made it. It was a fucking hit. I was just like, holy shit, just going gangbusters. And yeah, they I can't believe, we still can't believe how big they are. It's and fucking good on them, man. Like seriously, like I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. It's not exactly, I mean, we are not exactly my cup of tea, the stuff that they're doing in terms of the type of tracks, but Left Foot Rifle for me was like, oh my God, that was a bloody amazing album. To me, that was like their best work for some reason. I just still think it's their #1 album that they've done. And now my boy's also drumming for them as well for a while now, Pluto. You know, he's an incredible drummer, and he tells me stories about them now. Just like, you have no idea how big these guys are. Like, I'm like, yeah, no, no, you have no idea how big they are. They're huge. They're like the Beatles, man. And I just like, I just can't picture Suffer. Like, and they're the Adelaide boys. It's just weird. So good on them, man. I think that they've done a lot and have come a long way. So it's great. You know, they've opened up the doors into other areas. And same with Bliss and Nesso, but although they don't get along, to my knowledge, I don't think anyway. Yeah, Sydney versus Adelaide. I don't know why. It's really, really stupid if you think about it. I actually said to Suffer once, I was like, what's the beef? Like, why don't you like them? Yeah, it was just like, oh, come on, man. But it's probably the same with them, you know. It's just, you know, you put two of the same people in the same room, you know, something's gonna happen. A dog and a cat, maybe, I don't know.
Talking about Sydney, Adelaide, and we've talked about Sydney, Melbourne. I remember when Delta battled Hyjak at the Battle for Supremacy, and I think that was held in Melbourne, and that was the final of the battle. Now, J-Red was on the decks, and I think this was early 2000s. Do you remember the battle, and did you have chats with Hyjak either before or after the battle?
I can't. I don't remember having chats before it. I do remember. I kind of. I mean, I don't remember the battle specific. I remember parts of it. Man, it's so hard going back to that far. But I think there's a reason why Delta beat Jack. It's very simple, right? No, let me rephrase that. I think there's a reason why Jack lost, because I don't know Delta's world. I think Jack got too complacent with being the new kid on the block that can just burn. You know what I mean? I saw. I don't think he really. He was. I think he thought he had that thinking that he was just going to go in. It was just going to be an easy, clean sweep. It's like, nah, man, never, ever underestimate your component ever. And that's what I was thinking at the time. It's just like, don't ever get complacent. And I'm guilty of that too, by the way. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of being complacent at some point, thinking just because you're like really, you know, people are going gangbusters about you, and it was so easy to take out the competition a year ago or two. It does not mean there's like 5 other kids that are going, F this guy, I'm going to slaughter him next year. And that's one thing I think I've also learned, that you can just never get complacent. You have to always fight, fight, fight. And it happens a lot with the old school DJs, by the way. Okay. Is, you know, you're not going to be number one forever, and you've got to let go as well to get other blood in. So the way I look at things is, you know, with that battle, yeah, he lost, rightfully so, you know, but he lost to another guy who's just as good, just had a different type of night. They're both amazing MCs, you know. And I think, you know, when you look at it, it's like, you know, you had the Delta camp, and then you had the Hyjak camp, and everybody was dissing Delta's camp, and everybody, who gives a... When you look at it, back at it now, it sounds really stupid. But again, people are fighting for pole position. Of course there's going to be emotion involved. Of course there's going to be, you know what I mean, all that. So it's just part of life. It's nature. It's like, it's Darwinian principle. It's like, it's survival of the fittest. Whoever survives in and can adapt in that environment will win. So it's about adaptability. You know what I mean? I can slam you when it's on a street corner, or I can slam you in front of 5,000 people. Different story. You know, some people can't handle crowds like that, and they buckle. So, you know, fortunately, you know, Jack won that one before, and Delta won this one. So that's the way I really look at it. Don't get all cut out of shape. And I don't think they did. And Delta's another guy that I really respect and always kicked it with as well. So, and I hanged out with Jack. So it's... I don't. To me, the MC role, I don't give a fucking shit about that stuff. All yous are fucking can get fucked. When you cross over the DJ world, then we can talk.
Another one that you might be able to clarify that I've always wondered about, because I just heard about it, is Adelaide. I think it was 07, around that time. So after the record that you did with Hyjak and Torcha, Damo and Simplex, I think, produced the album. Unclassified or Classified. I can't remember the exact name. But in that album, Damo's a punchline rapper and he had lots of punches and battle lines. And I can't remember the line, but one of them was directed at Hyjak and Torcha. And then I heard that because of that line, Hyjak and Torcha made it so that Damo couldn't go to Sydney for years after that. Do you know anything about that?
Right. So here's what happened with that. I know nothing about that. What happened is after Drastic Measures came, that's when I went to Melbourne, remember? So yeah, I actually don't even know I didn't even know that happened on their record. I knew nothing about it. Different world for me for that. I just didn't. So yeah, that's news to me. Wow. Okay.
So there's a new one for you?
There's a new one for. I never knew that. I fled to Melbourne because I got over. Okay, so here's what happened with Jack and Torture and me at the time. Oh boy, here we go. To me, they were partying too hard. They were just getting complacent, right? They were one of the strongest MCs I have ever seen in this country, bare none. And you put them up with your Trems and you put them up with your Deltas. Like, these were heavy MCs. Incredible, all right? Otherwise, why would I work with them? And I think the difference is they admitted it. Years after, I saw an interview like maybe 10 years ago or something like that. They actually admitted it. And they're like, finally, you said it. And you understood that I was trying, after Drastic Measures finished, I was like, okay, boys, what's next? Let's try something different. Let's get happening, you know what I mean? Yeah, no. Okay, and then I'd go and do nightclubs because that was my bread and butter. They'd come, they fucked the whole club for me. Jack would still be from the bar. I was banned from clubs. I couldn't work anymore because of these motherfuckers. I had to leave. I mean, I didn't leave because of those two. Don't give them too much fucking credit. I just got sick of Sydney because it was just really difficult for me to keep going, right? So they just started going hard, partying hard. When you party hard, then forget you're not working. This is work. You know what I mean? You're not elevating your skills. You're not doing your next thing. We're not making new music together. And plus, they'll go to other people to make music with, and they didn't even tell me. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So when I went to Melbourne, they acted shocked. I'm like, what's to be so shocked about? Of course I'm going to leave and you know, and do my thing because I wanted to take this stuff really, really serious. The people in Melbourne were taking it serious. You know what I mean? So that was, I knew nothing of what was going on there. So it was a shame.
So then when you moved to Melbourne and you say that they were shocked, did that cause a real, you know, division between your relationship?
We never spoke for a long time. Yeah, didn't speak at all. There was a division between a lot of other DJs as well. I was like, what would you go there for? I'm like, so I can eat. Like, yeah, like I remember when I came back to Sydney for a show with Pegz, actually. There was a lot of hate to all the DJs towards me. Oh, here we go, the Melbourne motherfucker, here we go. Going to Melbourne now, huh? I'm like, I've only met you like 4 times to chill out. And it started getting rough, eh? And I'm like, well, I don't need this in my life right now. So I said, who are you, little man? Like, I said, oh, they started paying me out like, oh, you know, oh yeah, you're the DJ that, you know, plays, you know, a shanty at a record, at a club, you know. I'm like, I'm a DJ, dude. Like, he's like, I'm talking about your hardcore hip hop DJ. And I said to him, like, this is the stuff I'd come across all the time. That's why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
So I'd say to him, You know what's really sad is that you can play the rawest hip hop record out, and then that's fantastic. But I can come and waste you with an Ashanti record. That's the difference between you and me, and that's the shit I have to put up with all the time. And just stupid childlike conversations about this rivalry thing between Melbourne and Sydney. I really didn't care for it. Adelaide, to me, I have a lot of friends in all states. You know what I mean? Still do to this day. You know, I maybe don't connect with them, but I respect them a lot. So I think it's just one of those things that you've got to do. It's a tribal thing, right? Your state. Look at our like, footy. It's the same thing. It's tribal. Everything's tribal here. So it's nothing personal. It's just people just want to one up each other and just be the best. It's sport. It's sport. That's all it is. So yeah.
The Uncut Obese beef thing that was going on. How well do you recall that? And did you get caught up in it at all because you had, relationships with both camps, or didn't affect you at all?
Didn't affect me at all. I thought it was hilarious. Because I looked at it as a spectator. Like, you're both fucking wrong and you're both fucking dope. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? I think that came. I mean, look, this is my opinion on what I've saw. But I think because Strut was working at Obese, so the fact that Shaz named a successor, he named Pegz as a successor, not Shaz, not Strut. Sorry. So that's where things went that way for them. I think that's what happened. Look, I might be wrong, but that's, as an observer, that's what I'm trying to make sense of this all, right? And I think that's what happened, and that's how I branched out into those beefs. And LC was like, incredible. But so was Tyrion, and all the stuff that they were doing. But they were so different in terms of style. It's crazy, incredibly different, but underground as hell. So I actually enjoyed watching it because I'm like, hey, look, and popcorn going, I'm not the only one with beef. It's like a spectator sport. I freaking loved it. More, please. It makes me look a lot normal than a few other people. Come on, let's be. It's healthy. It's healthy. It's all good. I think, I don't know, if they back at it and think differently now, probably. So it's just so funny looking back at it all. It's just really.
And what did you think of the actual Monopoly track that Strut dropped?
I liked it a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get too involved in it in terms of, oh, did you hear what he said when he said that shit? Like, I didn't really get into all that. But I was preoccupied with my own stuff, if that makes sense. So I was just like, yeah, that's fine. We got along with when we first went to Melbourne with Jack, Torch, Mass for the Culture at Kings 1. That's when things started. Strut said to Mass and the boys to say, you should come with us. Come this space. And so there was like a tag. There was like this. It felt like it was a tug of war between both camps. Wanted us to affiliate with, not to say, oh, well, you're going to be our crew, but we started like noticing that people wanted, like, when you break up with your partner, someone's going to take sides from your friends and go, So we didn't want to do that. We just wanted to be cool with everybody. So the reason why we went to Obese, I guess, was it just looked like they had their business grounded in a space where things were blossoming, and obviously, come on. It's a business decision. It's not a personal decision. And by the way, Pegz asked me directly where they didn't ask me at all directly. So I think Jack, Torcha, and some of the other MCs that I work with look towards me for leadership in terms of where we should go and what we should do. Because I guess maybe I had static recordings, so that was the label that I had, that I was pumping out records through my own for the DJ channel stuff. So I knew the mechanics of working with distributors, working with all that sort of the whole chain of business there. So I was the one really making the call of why we should go here and what who and why. But yeah.
If I said to you, top 5 Australian hip hop releases, what comes to mind?
Left foot, right foot, in no particular order. Obviously LC's album. Yep, come on. Oh man, see, I'm going back in the early mid '90s now. You know what I mean? Because that's the space I know more, right? Not so much today. I would probably say, this is gonna be tough. Delta's album, come on, Australian, please.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely there. I'm gonna say Mastermind Alliance, MSMC. I don't give a shit what anyone says, but if you listen to the production of that today, you'll know why I'm saying that. Okay. Because that was incredible. 2 more. What else sticks out? Fuck. Pegz' first album, Capricorn Cat. And probably for me, Plutonic's album, first album that he did. Oh God, can't even remember the bloody name. I can't believe it. And I'm putting it in the top 5. I can't remember the name because of the production value that it's got on it. He's gonna fucking kill me. Well, fuck you. I'll put it in top 5. So kiss my ass. So probably those records, yeah.
If I flipped it and said top 5 MCs or acts in Oz hip hop all time for you?
Top 5 MCs or acts. Okay, for more performance based, okay, I'm gonna say definitely have to put Bliss and That's on the Hoods both in there. Because they know how to work a show. They know how to create a show. Come on. So there's that. There'd probably be I'd probably put The Herd. All right. Actually, put Herd in there as a top 5, one of the top 5 just all rounders. Like they make amazing music, and they can flip a crowd. They're not MCs, producers and shit. But no, the Herd, yeah, the Herd. What else? Man, I would say, look, Muffin Platonic. I've worked with them, right? So I know what they're capable of. It's really tough.
You got one more.
I'd say Oh man, I really don't know right now. There's so many to mention. Yeah, probably. Shit. Did I say LC? I said as the album.
Nah.
As performance, this is different. Sorry, boys. Oh shit. Fuck performance. Did I have to be MCs?
No, let's just acts.
I like the Elephant Tracks camp. They do good shows. I think I just want to combine them in that because they are, they have musicians. They play, man. You know what I mean? I like that. It's not just two MCs and the DJ. You know what I mean? You gotta do a lot of work when you're trying to kick a crowd going. You know what I mean? So I think that camp does some good work. Yeah, but I don't know with the new generation. I don't see that type of those shows because I'm not a part of it. So that's why I'm going back then. So yeah.
5 favorite Australian DJs, hip hop, R&B, club, DMC, just your top 5 Aussie DJs all time. And you can put yourself in there if you want.
Yeah, me. No, yeah, okay. So I would say Stain 1. I'm basing my decision based on not only trickery but everything, the works. So Stain 1 in no particular order of preference. J-Red. I would say probably shit. You're putting me on the spot here. Fucking hell. Probably oh my god, I can't believe it. It's so hard. I kind of don't like doing this. So, yeah, Stain 1, J-Red. I think there was this DJ who was really unheard of at the time in the 90s, and his name was Diaz. No one knows who this guy is. He was incredible. He's from Sydney. This guy could cut. This guy could mix. He was unbelievable. No one knows him. His name was DJ Diaz. Google him. You will not find him. I guarantee it. He just doesn't do it. And I think probably I can't really name another one, to be honest. I don't know why. I've got a block. I just can't put. I'm thinking of a few. I'm like, nah. I'm thinking of his guy. I'm like, nah.
So the three that stand out though are Diaz, J-Red, Stain.
Kim Dezen, probably. Kim Dezen, yeah, he had a lot to offer. He could do a lot of different things. So yeah, I put Kim Dezen in there too. Yeah, I've seen him play for groups. I see what he does. You know what I mean? So they're the kind of DJs that can really break away from playing records and programming a set to being a DJ for groups. You know what I'm saying? So, and look, I think Reflux as well. You can put him in there. DJ Reflux. He can get crafty with it. Funny dude. Fuck, he's hilarious. Fucking always cracks me up. Yeah, Reflux. Fucking, what's up, bro? How are you, mate? If you're watching it. Yeah.
The lesson. 927. Oh, yeah.